Hi, everybody. Okay, since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room on Fort Bliss because of poison pawns within our military, and because he was a whistleblower, he was the key. He was the key, and it was very, very serious because he threatened every poison pawn out there. And they he was under whistleblower protection, and they waited until that protection didn't show up. His detail didn't show up. They forcibly removed him, and they took him down to the basement room, the soundproof room, and they took his life. And they then, with the help of DES Thomas Kane, who was in charge of security on Fort Bliss, all the gates, all the cameras. With his help, they stole Richard's body off of Fort Bliss and trafficked it to Juarez for disposal. And we have been over almost 6 years now, going on 6 years. We have been investigating what happened to our son day in and day out. And because they told us to. They told us to. Who are they? The CID. The CID, the CID Tavita Nusa, buddy, and the chain of command. And they said that we had to investigate and bring them leads, otherwise they could not help us. And they know how difficult it is to do that, especially when they didn't notify us and we had a late start. And but we put our boots on, and we got to work. And every day we've been doing this, and we have exposed what Richard was the key. He opened the door, um, and you open it up, you seek and ye shall find, right? Seek and ye shall find. He opened up that lock, and we opened it to look what was in there. And he exposed everything. This whole Jeffrey Epstein, John of God pipeline that was protected by this racket, this really criminal racket of the El Paso Mormon faction cartel in alliance with the Mexican cartel, including CJNG, the most brutal cartel that are flesh peddlers, human flesh peddlers, um, and also human flesh eaters. So I don't know any gentler way to say that. Um, I've been forced to have to tell you that terrible, terrible truth that most of us don't even want to confront. We don't even want to say it. We don't even want to think about it because it's so horrible when we know about 500,000 children that were trafficked through that same area, through Fort Bliss. Through Fort Bliss, y'all. And that's only in those couple years, right? 2021 through 2023. But how many were trafficked through Zorro Ranch, right? Through Zorro Ranch up through from Brazil, right? From Brazil, you had Oprah, just cheering him on. Oh, yeah, he's the best thing since sliced bread. And he is just the most um, wickedest child trafficker. Uh, it's terrible. And all the way up through uh, Santa Fe and into Chicago, where that's where she's from, right? With her buddy Obama, with her buddy Obama, the Obamas, um, and of course the Pritchards, the Pritzkers, um, And of course, they like Santa Fe. They like Santa Fe, New Mexico, right where Zorro Ranch is close to, where William Bill Sanders Ranch is close to, which is the father-in-law, the billionaire father-in-law of Beto O'Rourke, right? Beto O'Rourke, which was the opposition to President Trump, and totally a poison pawns in the whole Walmart mass shooting case, wasn't he? Um, really pushing the false narrative against President Trump. And there his father-in-law, where he was married, the Sanders Ranch, which borders the northern part of Zorro Ranch, right by Santa Fe, Zorro Ranch borders White Sands Missile Range, the north call up of White Sands Missile Range, which I'm very familiar with because that's where I was born. That's where I was born. I had someone come on saying, "How do you know these things? Where did you live here? Are you from here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." Was born at White Sands Missile Range. I'm sure her jaw dropped. And it was a gift. Um, that we're so familiar and have all the contacts that we do because of the level of corruption um, that has infiltrated our government um, institutions and agencies, law enforcement agencies, and the courthouses, y'all, and also the elections. So let's get busy talking about it because I thank you so much, Irene, and thank you. It's so late. I just can't help it. We were being briefed on this whole Iran attack and on what's going on in the courthouses there in El Paso. And it's so fast. All the news, everything that's happening, it's so much and it's so fast that there's no time to sleep and to get on and be able to relay everything that we're learning to you, and I hope I do a good job. It gets very, very late because I have to try to learn it like speedy quick, I have to learn it so speedy fast, everything, and put my mind around all of these different tentacles of this El Paso Mormon faction cartel in alliance with the Mexican cartels that are a protection racket for the trafficking pipeline. And I know that Jeffrey Epstein, in 2019, that was a hard hit for that pipeline, but it kept going, and it rerouted through Fort Bliss instead of Zorro Ranch. It rerouted through Fort Bliss, and of course, John of God. Um, what if you don't know, Brazil is, that has been a battleground also because of their involvement in this pipeline. Um, and I want to also broaden that because of the connections. Think about the billionaire connections. Think about what has just been discovered with the release of all of these millions of files that shows you that there is rigging going on. We just learned, and it's been out for a little bit. I didn't break that news. It's been out a little bit that Zorro Trust won the $80 million Powerball from a ticket in Oklahoma. There's confusion with the New Mexico and the Oklahoma, but I just want to clarify that ticket was bought in Oklahoma. And if you look on your map, you'll see Santa Fe, the panhandle of Texas, and then you'll see the little town in Oklahoma right over the border. I mean, it's all, well, that area, there's nothing small about it, right? But in the scope of everything, it's right in the same line, just to drive over across the panhandle into Oklahoma to buy the ticket for Zorro Trust, which is Zorro Ranch, which is Jeffrey Epstein. Um, for this Powerball, $80 million. Okay, he took a cash, uh, all in one cash, ended up almost being $30 million after taxes. Okay, so but they know all this because this group, which is connected to Bill Sanders, which is connected to Beto O'Rourke, which is connected to the rest of the poison pawns, like Woody Hunt, like Paul Foster, and like Alejandra de la Vega Foster, Paul Foster's wife, who owns, um, a like a 7-Eleven. It's warehouse distributor. It doesn't really have a nice name when you translate it in English, but it's just a convenience, these convenience stores, over 300 of them that she owns, from, if the information that I'm reading is accurate, over 300 all through Juarez, and they sell these lottery power, tickets. They sell lottery tickets. How convenient is that? It's like, so you got the sports teams, which we know are rigged because of everything that President Trump has showed us. We know the lottery is now rigged. We see that because, come on, Zorro Trust, what's the chance of that? And, there are reports that there were more winnings, right? But $80 million, right? Um, and then to have Erica Kirk's family being behind gambling and also part of American, um, notary, right? Company that was in charge of American notes, including lottery tickets, printing those out, and knowing that the rest of the family on both sides, right, um, are very shady, and some are absolutely criminal, right? That's been confirmed, but it's all shady. It's all shady. Some have been confirmed to be criminal, but the whole thing is shady. And so we know that the lottery is rigged, the uh, sports, betting and all that is rigged. We've just been through all of that in the news. And you have to sell those. And, it's so interesting that this foster couple are into selling lottery tickets and sports teams, right? And also oil, fuel, which we know through everything that's been happening, with Cesar Peniche, with Pemex, with Maru Campos, with Maduro. Yeah, Maduro. Um, we know that there was siphoning of fuel, um, the theft of fuel, and yeah, uh, really a very big deal. And of course, connected to Cesar Duarte, of course. They're all connected to the owners of the Plenitude Crematorium, where we have evidence that that's where our son was disposed of. And that's why this all connects to our son's case, all of this rigging, because they rigged rigged the funeral house business, they rigged death certificates, they rigged, you name it, they were rigging it. They were rigging elections. All of this talk of like, oh no, our elections are just perfect. Y'all, everything is being rigged. They are frauds. Their name is deception, right? Their name is fraud. Their name is liar, right? That's the El Paso Mormon faction cartel in alliance with the Mexican cartel. And the books from El Mencho are open. We get to see the logbooks. We get to see the ledgers where we know the police are rigged. We know that the prosecutors are rigged. They are bought. We know all the way up to the president's office, they're rigged. We know that Chihuahua is totally a narco state, rigged everywhere, and that of course, the elections are rigged, and that now we know that the courthouse is rigged, right? The courthouse is rigged. And this is where, if you feel hopeless, don't feel hopeless, because if you have been in the courthouse for any kind of reason, and you have a story to tell, you need to tell it if you feel like your case was rigged, because we know that the judges in the criminal law magistrate court in El Paso are rigged. They are not even legal, y'all, because they're supposed to be elected. Not one of them is elected. Not one. It's rigged. That whole El Paso criminal law magistrate court is rigged, right? We know that the DA's office is rigged. We know that the forms for James Bonneau Montoya with the 2028 stamp, and then the other stamp that they back stamped and used the stamp, and then the district clerk stamped her back stamp on the back stamp of the back stamp of the 2028 stamp. Um, that's all rigging, right? That's all rigging. Everything is rigged so that they can control the cases. And so, of course, the spinning of the wheel to have random judges over cases, and the attorneys that go along with it, that's rigged. That's rigged. And we know that because the Walmart mass shooting with Judge Sam Madrano was rigged. We know that Joe Spencer was rigged. And I did find that audio, and I didn't put it to video. That's why it was just audio. And I thought I did put it into a song, but let's play it real quick, see if it works.
I have, when I first met the kid, which was like 2 days after the incident, I walked out of the jail thinking this kid was too good. That he's like, what the heck did I do? Like, he didn't really recapture, what he did. To this day, he thinks he ain't still work with him. He has a total, he can't fathom what happened.
Let's play that again. I know it's difficult to listen to, and but it's really important because what he is saying is that he met with Patrick Crusius 2 days after the shooting. If you don't know who Patrick Crusius is, he is the defendant. He was charged 90 life sentences. He's in prison right now for the shooting of the Walmart mass shooting on August 3rd, 2019, which was used to create a fake and false narrative to rig the election against President Trump. This group does not like President Trump, okay? And don't forget that Patrick Crusius's father is a disciple of John of God, okay, from Allen, Texas, which is really important for what I am about to share with you with when it comes to Iran, because this is all connected to Iran. Do not put them in different boxes. This is all connected, and that's why it seems, and it is, that all of this is connected to our sun. Everything that happens is connected then to our sun. And we're like, how is that? How can that be? How can that be? Because he's the key that opened the door to this big El Paso Mormon faction cartel in alliance. They made an alliance, okay, with the Mexican cartel to give them access to visas to come into the country to start businesses that we feel and evidence indicates they didn't have to follow the laws that Americans do. They didn't have to worry about getting a liquor license or being inspected like they should, or pay taxes like they should, or whatever. They were given protection. They were given protection from any kind of scrutiny, any kind of being held accountable to the law of this land. There was a different government for them. Okay, they were given privilege. They were given total privileges that are outside of our law, outside of our regulations, outside our permits. They were given privileges that the rest of us don't have. And so that is the alliance that they made. And they were given access to our intelligence databases through, like Connell Wetton in the FBI, the assistant special agent in charge, to access the databases to know what cases are going on, who are the whistleblowers, who are the informants, who are the agents on the case, and they could rig it. They could rig that. Okay, so our intelligence was rigged by them. And so the key word here is rigging. And this group, this is what Richard exposed, because they were the protection racket. Okay, they put the curtain around, or put a wall, put doors, put whatever, a a shield around the major trafficking pipeline of Jeffrey Epstein going down to John of God, that was then redirected through Fort Bliss after 2019 and put into turbo force through contracts and everything. They used our military to do it, 500,000 children. And so, and all the evil things that go along with it. Okay, evil things. And so this is what Richard was um, exposed. This is what he exposed. He was the key. He was the key. And so, and all of that that protection racket includes the fuel theft, includes the weapons smuggling, the ammunition, all, all of that. Um, all the drugs, all of that. That was this racket because it was in alliance with the Mexican cartel. And of course, then you have to clean the money through, you have to rig it, right? You have to rig the money. I mean, you have to clean the money through the rigged slot machines, through the lottery, through the sports betting. You have to rig elections and rig appointments and rig, uh, you know, uh, it's just very, you have to rig the machine that chooses what judge is over what case. It's one big rigging operation. And part of that pipeline, um, and it's been exposed, the Ukrainian aspect of it, the Asian aspect of it. Yes, the Chinese connection to it, we know with the Panama, um, eh, very big deals going on in Mexico. Um, and that's why Mexico was such a important place to start for President Trump. And people are like, "What about our country? What about our country?" We were being so rigged. We were being so infiltrated. We were being so invaded in so many ways, invaded and exploited because of the fuel, because and people rightfully were laughing and making fun of the United States on our Facebook posts in the comment section saying, "Oh yeah, Mexico, where do you think Mexico and the Mexican cartels got their weapons, got their rockets, got their ammunition?" From Fort Bliss, and I'm like, "Yeah, from military bases, right?" And we have evidence from also from Fort Huachuca. So, absolutely, because we were infiltrated, we were rigged. Our system was being rigged by this El Paso Mormon faction cartel. And eh, and it includes Iran. And that's being showed right now with what happened in Austin today. If you look at where the Iranian Hezbollah population wound it up in Texas, it's the Allen, Texas, Dallas area. Why? Because Obama was really, let's just say, he wasn't too tough on them. He wasn't too tough on them. And he was absolutely an ally. And, well, he liked Santa Fe. They liked Santa Fe, y'all. um, that lab, right? The lab with the transhumanism and the really the tip of this pipeline, right? The Zorro Ranch. Um, and so there is a huge Hezbollah uh, element in this pipeline and in Mexico and Brazil. Okay. President Trump, think about this. launched the attack after El Mencho, where the CIA recovered the ledgers and all the other paperwork and evidence, which confirmed that Mexico was a narco state, which is now Mexico's chance to clean itself up, right? And get back its sovereignty from being totally infiltrated, because the Chinese influence, so the foreign influences that were coming into Mexico, including the cartel, the El Paso cartel, influencing Mexico. Absolutely. Mexico needs to be sovereign. And in the United States, we need to hold this cartel accountable for what they've done at the border. At the border. It's just so terrible. And when you have that concentration of billionaires with $150,000 cars all over El Paso, when people, the average yearly salary or yearly income is like $30,000, and you have people driving around $150,000 vehicles, you know that something is up. And when there's that much fraud in the courthouse, when there's that much fraud in the courthouse and in the district attorney's office, which is totally, totally corrupted, when you have no legitimate judges in the magistrate court and no legitimate district attorney, prosecutor, then when you have powerful people that have billions of dollars, then you know this is a rigged game. Because a legitimate billionaire would not stand for having a rigged courthouse and a rigged district attorney's office and a rigged medical examiner's office, because a medical examiner, Mario Raskin Ortiz, who we have absolutely shouted that out for years, is not legitimate. He is not qualified for that position and is in the country illegally. So this is why we're on here every day, because the system is rigged. And if it's rigged for us, then it's rigged for people that are going through the system as well. And that's one thing that we really wanted to ask today, is that if you have experienced that rigging, that you speak up, that you absolutely speak up. So we know with Plenitude, with the funeral home fraud rigging, with the rigging of urns, right? They didn't even fill the urns with the loved ones that the families had paid for to be cremated. No, they rigged them full of pulverized construction material, right? Disgusting sacrilege, right? And then they kept the bodies, because, of course, Ukraine wanted dead bodies to get the fluid out of the bodies to make their dolls for their chest of dead. I just can't make this stuff up. It's just so sick on every end of this tentacle. And don't forget, again, that it wasn't until the intelligence community raided El Mencho's lair and received his books and released the ledgers to the public to the public, really to Mexico, to the public of Mexico to see, I mean, to the world, but for Mexico to see that their officials were poison pawns, were poison pawns. That's what they are when they are taking bribes like that. They're they're poisoned and they are toxic. They are toxic for freedom, toxic for justice, toxic to the people, toxic to their country, toxic to the land, toxic to the air, everything. That's what happens when people become poison pawns. And so, and of course, for the United States to see those and say, well, yeah, I haven't talked to anybody that really doubts that we have poison pawns in the United States, right? And that's what's a little scary because we have the likes of a poison pawn called Lindsey Graham that, has the president's ear, but I think if he calls out DeMargo as a rhino, he absolutely knows that Lindsey Graham is a rhino. But it was when President Trump, when um, the intelligence agency got to look at El Mencho's books, that the okay to um, go to respond to Iran um, came about. And I think that's very, very important for people to understand. Of course, this has to do with finances. Of course, this has to do with oil. Of course, this has to do um, with the open border exploitation that has been happening and everything that goes with that. Um, the the threats on people's lives has to do with that. And and also the alliance with maybe other groups other than the Mexican cartel to enter into the United States, given visas and privileged uh, outside of the law status. And we know that that group is in the Dallas area and where Patrick Crucius is from, Allen, Texas, which is right there, and that's a suburb of Dallas, Texas, Dallas Fort Worth. And of course, that's Brian Blake Crucius, the father, who was the disciple of John of God, right? The other tail point of the trafficking pipeline um, in in connection to Oprah and Obama's and everything going on there at the labs and the transhumanism and the trafficking at Zorro Ranch. And voila, they go to Oklahoma and they get a $80 million Powerball win. Um, so this is rigging, and then we go through 5 year, well, really six years, where nobody is inspecting, nobody is raiding, nobody is investigating Zorro Ranch for years and years. That's outside of the law, y'all. That is a privileged status. And I don't even want to call it privilege because it's really a damning status. If you're outside of the law, you're cursed. You're cursed. because nothing gets better when you're outside of the law. No. So here they are saying, okay, cartel, come over and you're going to be privileged. But that's really a curse on them and on their family. Okay, Iran, come on over. We're going to give you privilege. But it's not, it's a curse. And that's why the whole thing with the illegal entry into the United States was a curse on the very individuals who thought that they were uh, uh, getting a good end of the rigging, and yet they were receiving a curse and the hell that comes with it. And we saw that in the Zeroldi case with the exploited women. And then the women get called bad names when they're really victims. Um, yeah, so I hope I explained that really well. And, the more that we learn, and sometimes it takes me a couple days just to process the whole thing and put all the pieces together in order to, and I don't know what the the current events right now are because things are happening so fast. So that is the best explanation I can give you for right now. And as things develop, um, and I put piece more together and get a better understanding with the help of so many people, then I can give you new information. But why is this important to Richard's case? Because this very group that are poison pawns involved in all the rigging um, has our son's remains. And we want our son's remains. Okay, so let's read all the comments. Thank you so much. Thank you, Irene. Yeah, Denise. How absolutely evil and horrific. So deeply sorry for your loss. Thank you so much. Everything is a puzzle piece connected to the same vile puzzle. Yes. And it's been going on for a long time. You're absolutely right. And, this is the beauty of Richard. Um, he he unlocked that. He's the key. He unlocked it. And that's why, remember, they sent Almayo, a billionaire's lawyer, to do counterintelligence on Richard. They sent the CAO, an asymmetric warfare uh, officer that was in the same community over there at Fort Huachuca with Erica Kirk's mother and Jeffrey Epstein, pilot of the Lolita Express. The pilot's daughter was an officer in a military intelligence with top secret clearance, right where our CAO came from. And we're like, why is this lieutenant colonel asymmetric warfare officer? Asymmetric warfare tactics and published in Army Deception. And then we catch him using asymmetric warfare tactics and deception on us. And we have the evidence. And we turned it in. We're on like our sixth CAO, I think maybe seven. Casualty affairs officer, supposed to be, empathetic and helpful and help us do all the paperwork. And we had to just, it was just crazy. Absolutely crazy. So you knew that Richard had unlocked something very, very big. And now we're learning. Now we're learning through these years how big it was. And the release of the Epstein files, and of course, President Trump winning the election because it was too big to rig, right? It was too big to rig, because I think he won by much more than what is shown. Um, and everything that he has done with the extraditing of like just okay, so when I say 100 cartel leaders, those are just the ones that were extradited. Okay, there's so many more arrests, um, like La Diabla. She was never extradited, but she is a huge leader in the SJNG doing the cesarean section, illegal cesarean sections, who she trained 16 and 17-year-old girls to do these illegal cesarean sections. And some babies did not survive. And a lot of those women, they were never meant to survive because they did organ harvesting after they took the babies. So, and the babies then were sold in the black market, adoption, rigged birth, rigged death certificates, rigged y'all, and inside the United States, they were targeting the homosexual couples in the United States for these babies. And my point is, they were in the United States. So those birth certificates, everything that went along with that baby, the death certificate, all of it was rigged. And the over 400 bodies that were discovered in just that one day, we're talking, this has been going on for a long time. They got so sloppy that they were so filthy, so rat infested. 400 bodies piled up like card. Uh, it wasn't even like that. They just stuffed the bodies everywhere and just let them rot there. And all of those 400 plus, God save their soul. You know, it's so disgusting. All of them had rigged death certificates, y'all, because the ones that the bodies that they got from these funeral homes, and remember there was just announced another funeral home that was part of it, um, they were given urns full of pulverized construction material um, or animal bones, right? That that all had to have paperwork, and all that paperwork was then tampered with, and really today's word is rigged. And so then if you want to make a complaint about that, then they rig the judge over there, didn't they? Didn't Carlos Manuel Salas rig the judge, right? And the judge released Jose Luis Arellano Caron. And then in the United States, he ran over to the United States, which is a good thing for the victims because now um, he has breached his or violated his residency status in the United States, and the victims can go after his assets now in the United States, which is enormous, y'all. They have Argo Oil and Gas, Kano Steel, huge, right? So lots of homes, lots of restaurants, um, absolutely. Yeah. So this is why we're coming on so that victims can get this information, understand what is happening. Of course, there is action now from the family, from our family, that is pressuring the uh, justice um, community there and the political community or the government there in Mexico. And the judge now that released Jose Luis is being scrutinized, and we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what happens. We need a lot of loud voices. We need a lot of loud voices, and we need a lot of shares. We do not monetize. I don't monetize. And we need to do the right thing. And these are crimes against humanity. These are crimes against our country's sovereignties. And they are individuals with very, very bad intentions. That they are all part of the occult. They are part of the occult. I call them a sex cult too. On top of that, and they're just up to no good. They're just up to no good. And so, this is our future. That we're at a point right now where we can see what has been done to us, and we can report, and we can also share this information, and because we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And that's why they're wanting to rig elections, because what we say is that important and holds that much weight. And anyone that tells you, oh, it doesn't matter to go and say anything, it doesn't matter, they'll get away with it anyway, and it doesn't matter to vote, they are all lying. Those are all operatives, or they're hypnotized, right? No, we are a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and we have a voice. We have a voice, and it's stronger than theirs because they work for us. These poison pawns work for us, and that's something they don't want you to be reminded of, that they work for us, and we will hold them accountable for their toxicity, because now they're poison pawns, and they need to clean up their act, or be held accountable for what they've done. So yeah, this is my message. This is our message for everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. I think it's pray. Um, oh, yeah, someone has to be nasty. So, there are some people that all they can do is insult, and they don't bring any receipts. They don't bring any receipts. And that's not our case. We post all the receipts, all the receipts. And we just thank you for sharing it all. Thank you so much. God bless you. Follow us, like us, and all of that.